So that little tune is called The Hound and the Hare, and around 13 months ago, I played that way better than I do now. I've gotten quite rusty over the last 13 months. Now, in my defense, I do have a 13-month-old baby now, so I have been busy with things. And in the last year or so, I've been putting together a book of clawhammer banjo arrangements of classical music and recording all those pieces. I say all those pieces, there's only 7 of them. They're just really hard. It took a while. I had to learn them and record them. And it took way longer than I would have liked it to take, partly again because of the aforementioned child, who is a bit of a handful, as you might imagine. But now I've done it. I'm finished. I've recorded that. I'm probably completely going to just forget those tunes. Quite frankly, I'm sick of them. But now it's back to actually just playing music properly. And actually, now in the last few months, I guess since the baby's gone to nursery, I've been able to actually dedicate a bit more time to doing the thing I do. I play music and I teach music. Anyway, so this video is for people who have maybe also taken a break from music or are about to take a break. Now, that could be a really long break, could be a few years, or could be a short break. It could be a week. Either way, we feel the effects of a break, and we tend not to enjoy it very much. So for me, this last year and a bit has not been a complete break, and it might not be for you if you're thinking of taking a break or in the middle of one now. I have been teaching during that time still, and I've been playing a little bit, but I've been playing way, way, way much less. That's really clumsy. I've been playing much less, basically, nowhere near as much as I would, and my skills have certainly gotten a little rusty. I'm trying to get that old polish back into it now. It's that old adage: if I don't practice for one day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2 days, the critics know it. And if I don't practice for 3 days, everyone knows it. And trust me, at this point, I think anyone can tell I'm just not playing what I used to be able to play anywhere near as well. And I've not really made much progress because we all want to keep making progress. That's the point of practice. So how might you approach getting your skills back to where they were once you've had a break and you've come back, or how do you navigate one of these breaks in the first place? That's what this video is all about. So firstly, the break itself, what happens when we take a break? Beyond the obvious point of not being able to do something that we want to do. Well, it's very individual. I think everyone's a little bit different, but practice is all about repetition. So simply put, if we stop repeating things, i.e. just playing, we stop learning things. At the very least, your progress during a break will be slowed down or stopped completely. So for me, this is what I said before, everyone's a little bit different. For me, the biggest important decline in my skills, the one that annoyed me the most as well, was my like listening, my hearing skills. So chord progressions and melodies that I used to have just right at my fingertips. Immediately, they've just taken a little bit longer for me to kind of connect it with what I'm hearing, and that feels really crap. Because music is obviously an oral art, it's an oral skill. I've taken a good few steps back and I just feel slower. Imagine if you're just slower at understanding the language you talk. That's just not a fun experience. So now I'm kind of catching up. For you, it might be different. The challenge might be more about a specific technique or a song you've been learning. Ultimately, the advice is always going to kind of come back to the same thing. However, it is also worth pointing out that a break can be good. It all depends, of course, on the length of the break and the nature of it. But sometimes if you've been going at something for a while and you don't feel progress is happening with a specific tune or technique, and you take a few days off, let's say, coming back to it fresh can really help. I think this is less true for those really long breaks. But even then, the point is that it might not be as bad as you think. Coming back to something fresh can be helpful, and ultimately, you got to remember that you've taken a break for a reason. Maybe it's just life getting in the way or your priorities changing temporarily, whatever. You've got other stuff to do that is also important and valuable. So try not to get too wound up about just focusing on this one thing in your life, which is playing the banjo. So some practical tips. Firstly, let's start with kind of what I was hitting at before, which is acceptance. Accept that you're going to be a bit rusty or that you are a bit rusty already and you're going through a bit of a relative fallow period. That's all okay. These things happen. And I know it is far easier said than done to just say, accept it. It feels crap, full stop. To know that you were once better at something and that you're just catching up with past you. It sucks. But it's fine to feel like it sucks. It's perfectly natural. Almost everyone will go through these periods. So I'm talking about total acceptance here. You're allowed to feel disappointed and you're allowed to feel annoyed and you're allowed to feel sad about it. You got to start there, yeah? So a bit more practically, if you know that you're going to take something of a break, aim to at least still listen to and think about music. Try to play at least a little bit if you can. And I'm talking about any playing is better than nothing, and any thinking and any listening is better than nothing. Keep it super simple if that helps. So, for example, with Clawhammer, maybe that means just playing Cripple Creek, even if it's just that first little phrase and just repeating that a little bit, or your dum ditties, maybe some chords, just so you can at least, oh, I remember that's a C. I remember that's an E minor. It really depends what level you're at. Obviously, this is, those comments are more for kind of beginners, but if you're more advanced, just maybe pick one tune that you occasionally play like once a week if you can. It's all about muscle memory and instincts. They will be there to pick up again once you come back to it, but if you can just keep some of that rust off by just playing it at all, any level, then it's going to make it way easier. So, as I said, playing even a little bit, even if it's a tiny amount, can be really powerful. The thing is, what you don't want to get stuck in is that situation where you become avoidant, where you've not played in a while, so you're probably getting rusty, maybe you're getting a bit worse. You don't, therefore, you don't want to pick up your instrument to find that out and to see it, right in front of you and realize you're playing sloppily. So you don't play, so you get rustier. So you're less inclined to play, so you don't play and you get rustier, and it's this like self-perpetuating cycle of just getting a little bit worse. I've definitely been in that situation, less with banjo, but maybe with guitar or bass guitar, which I also play. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, if I pick up this instrument, it's going to sound a bit rubbish. I'll need to put in maybe an hour or 2 hours of just playing simple exercises just to feel that those skills are coming back, and that's off-putting. So you don't do it, and then it's another week before you sit down and maybe think about doing it again. And at that point, it becomes even less appealing to do. But at the end of the day, you just got to do it. So, yeah, easy said than done again. It always is. But just keep in mind that everyone experiences these things in the same way, and it's always a bit of a nightmare. So, when you are coming back from a break, and let's just say you've not played at all for a while, you can try, for example, you could try to take things bit by bit. Start with the basics, maybe, if you have to. It's about building confidence. This is important as anything else. You don't need to start with the most complicated thing that you are able to play or were able to play. Start with a scale, maybe, some chords, anything, basic dum ditties, as I was just talking about. But at the same time, don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Maybe you do want to go straight back to that complicated stuff you used to play. Maybe with something completely new, even something you thought was always beyond your playing. Why not be audacious and ambitious, right? As a general point, the only reason anyone can play hard stuff is because they tried it, and therefore you should try it too, really, if you want. Why not? That's what I tell everyone. It really is as simple as that. So I do know that the last two things are mutually inconsistent. Either start easy or start really hard. But the point is whatever is going to motivate and excite you as an individual and help you build confidence. Everyone is different. So I usually find myself wanting to do a little bit of a combination of the two of them. If it's been a while and I do feel really rusty, just do some basic dum ditties or basic drop thumb exercises and realize, hey, this is the thing I do. I play banjo, and I teach it as well, so I've got no excuse. There's just some other practical stuff that cannot be underrated. For example, put some new strings on. If it's been ages since you last played, there's a good chance your strings are too old and they're rusty and they're crap and you need to get rid of them. Set your instrument up a little bit as well. If you don't know how to do it, that's fine. Maybe you can pay someone else to do it, or just look online. There's great resources for it now. You want to make sure that you have an instrument that is comfortable for you to play. Make life as easy as possible for yourself. You do not want to fight your instrument, as this will just make it way harder than it needs to be, and it will make you miserable. It'll make you feel like you're way worse than you are. Maybe try getting lighter strings. Again, let's say you played for 10 years and then you took a year or two long break where you barely played or didn't play at all. Your hands are just probably not going to be as strong. Maybe try slightly lighter strings. If you usually go for 10s, maybe try a 9s or 9.5s. Personally, I always kind of go between 9.5s and 10s. My left hand prefers 9.5s. I like how light they feel and how easy they are. But then my right hand likes 10s. Something about the resistance of when you hit the strings just feels a lot better. If only it were possible to have 9s here and 10s. It doesn't make any sense, right? But that's kind of what I prefer. So I just kind of bounce between them. But maybe for you, try 9.5s if 10s is your usual, or if you can't find them, find 9s. Give it a go. You might hate them. 9s feel a little bit like elastic bands, I think. 9s can feel a little bit like elastic bands, I think. So 9.5s can be a nice little compromise between the two. Either way, the point is experiment. If you're coming back to something that you've not played for ages and you find it hard, just experiment a little bit. At the end of the day, strings are not that expensive. You can always try the nylon, the Nile gut, I guess they call it, strings. Just experiment, see what suits you. And you can always go back to the strings you used to play once you kind of become a bit more comfortable with the instrument again. Also, just old strings sound rubbish. They can sound awful. They lose their ability to stay in tune. The intonation can just go way off horrendously. And again, that will just make you feel terrible if you're playing and everything sounds out of tune. It's worth remembering that. So yeah, if it's been a while, if you need new strings, get new strings. 100% get new strings. That should be a really good starting point. Also, and this honestly, this is just advice for anyone. Go into a music shop and just play the most expensive banjo they have in there, or maybe a few of them, because again, it's very individual. I've played some really high-end banjos that I think play like crap, and others that play beautifully, and other people will totally disagree with me and have it the other way around. Even if you're not going to buy the instrument, if you have no desire whatsoever to spend that much on a banjo, it's just nice to pick up something that plays like a dream and realize maybe that, hey, you're better than you thought. You've had that break, you come back, you play your own instrument, maybe you've got a cheaper banjo and it doesn't play very well. Go into a shop, it's a bit cheeky, but play their nicest instrument, feel how that feels, and realize actually you're a good 10 or 20% better than you thought you were, because now you're playing a nice instrument. Trust me, there are banjos out there that are easy to play and some that are harder to play. Unless you play those nicer instruments, you'll never know. Things like this, again, it's a recurring theme here. It's all about building your confidence, because you want to get back to the point where you're confident to play and confident to practice so that you can continue playing and practicing. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like crap. So this is a bit of a short video. I'll just kind of wrap it up here a bit. I have students who take breaks, sometimes like over the summer period or something like that. And I always give them this sort of advice. At the end of the day, learning to play music is a very raw and a very vulnerable thing. You need to be given the tools to help yourself be confident and self-assured about not just where you are currently, but confident about where you're going. Not playing as much and feeling that your skills are stagnating or deteriorating really risks disturbing that confidence building. And honestly, as a teacher, as a clawhammer banjo teacher, it is in my interest to help students on this front. I am incentivized to give you good advice. So this is what I'm trying to do here. I want people to play as much banjo as possible, and I want as many people to play banjo as possible. So trust me here, this is good advice. That's what I'm trying to say to you, basically. I'm incentivized to give you good advice. And of course, the most useful piece of advice, by far the most important piece of advice, do not forget this one. Watch my videos, all of them. Watch them repeatedly and subscribe and like my videos and share them. Seriously, you will fail as a musician unless you follow each of these steps. Cheers. Thank you.